Today on the show, we have Anna, the anxiety coach. I've suffered from anxiety a lot throughout my time, and it's one of the biggest challenges with my own mental health. So, really looking forward to this chat and finding out how Anna became an anxiety coach and how she helps her clients as well. Welcome to the Redesign Your Mind YouTube channel and podcast, where we have real conversations around mental health, self-improvement, and how we can find more meaning in our lives. I'm your host, Stefan Moralia. You can watch episodes here, or you can listen to the podcast on iTunes or Spotify. The show and any video uploads are loosely inspired by my book, Redesign Your Mind, Tools and Inspiration for Positive Mental Health, which is available on Amazon, Kindle, iTunes, and Audible. Please refer to the description below for more information, including my socials, a disclaimer, and how you can get in contact with me. Thanks for watching and joining me on the journey to redesign your mind. Hi, Anna. Thanks for joining me today. Really looking forward to having you on the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Thanks for that. And so, like I said in the intro, you're an anxiety coach, and anxiety for me is probably my biggest challenge. And, everyone's got their own challenges, whether it's depression, anxiety, or other factors or everything. And for me, really looking forward to this chat. So can you tell the listeners a bit about yourself and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Anna, and I help people defeat anxiety. And I came to this work from moving through my own deep journey with anxiety as well. And I think you said it beautifully, like right before we hit record, which is depression's that good friend of anxiety, and they often go hand in hand.
Yes.
And when I was really able to hone in on that anxiety, I spent about 10 years um, diving deep and doing my own work. And when I came out on the other side of that journey, I really realized that all of the work I had put in and all the tools I had gathered were beautiful for me, but were going to be wasted if I kept them to myself. So I decided to take this launch and start reaching out and helping others that are struggling with anxiety, because I realized that it doesn't have to be the way I thought would always be.
Yeah, definitely. And 10 years into this journey, I guess my own journey or known journey with mental health is probably at the 5 or 6 year mark. So um, what actually was the trigger? So let's go back to 10 years ago. When did you realize you had a problem with anxiety, and what was the exact moment?
Yeah, I think you made a really subtle point there, which is my known journey. So I think most of my clients, when we start talking, they look back and they go, gosh, if I'm really honest, I think, I've had this since childhood or a young adulthood, and didn't realize it was anxiety until, X year. For me, that moment when I really first clicked in and was like, oh, that's what I'm dealing with, was when I had my first panic attack. I was
Yeah,
19
wow.
years old. I was biking to rugby practice, and I had to pull the bike over. And, it was all the typical symptoms you hear of a panic attack: shortness of breath, couldn't breathe, tingling, really out of body experience. And I had no idea what was happening. I was extremely scared. And I called my dad and, kind of explained to him what I was experiencing. And he said, Anna, you're having a panic attack. Can you get yourself back to your apartment? And that was kind of, that was the click that was like, oh, panic attack, anxiety. Was kicking and screaming to the doctor, and really to look at what it meant to be labeled that and to hold that diagnosis by the medical, community here in the West. And my journey really, like a river, it kind of twisted and turned in and out of east and west and all the different modalities. But that was the
Mm,
moment I realized, like, this isn't normal. This is actually interrupting my life in a way that I can no longer show up for the commitments I've made.
mm. Wow, that is so relatable, I think, to a lot of people as well. And I think of, yeah, sorry, I said 5 or 6 years. I mean, 5 or 6 years of acknowledging it. Maybe I've been 10 years of knowing it, but, um, and maybe like you said, it's been, well, I definitely agree. It's probably since a child, but those first initial stages, I had tingling and heart palpitations, and I thought it was a cardiovascular problem and went to doctors and just didn't believe it was anxiety. Um, and it sounds like you've had a much more, um, I guess, accepting approach and saying, right, I'm going to work on this. Whereas I think a lot of people, especially males, or from my own experience, we kind of say, oh, no, it's not anxiety. And things get worse. So, can you touch on some of the, obviously, you're an anxiety coach now, some of the other triggers people might look out for if they're, not sure if they're suffering from anxiety or not?
Absolutely. Yeah, my journey was, it took me a long time to get to the accepting stage.
Okay,
And
okay.
was, yeah, yeah. Like I said, Kate, my parents dragged me to the doctor kicking and screaming. I did not want to do it. I
Yeah.
didn't want to address it. And then it went, and then it flowed into, this is who I am. This is how I will always be. I will always be an anxious person. I need
Mm,
to learn how
mm.
to cope with it. And that word cope comes up a lot, right? How are you coping with it?
Yeah.
So, I think to your question, a lot of times, and a lot of the people I work with, a lot of my clients go to the doctor and have that experience where they're saying, I'm having these physical symptoms. And the doctor says, it's just anxiety. It's just
Mm,
anxiety. Go home. It's just anxiety.
mm.
And I think that's a really a letdown
Yeah.
by the system, right? Because that word just, your physical symptoms aren't real, is what I hear in that. And we don't need to address your physical symptoms because they're being caused by anxiety. So I
Mm-hmm.
think what really clicked for me and my journey was that when I decided to really honor my physical symptoms, yes, triggered by anxiety, and real. And I need to address what's happening with me physically as well as mentally to defeat the anxiety. It's not just one or the other. So
Mm-hmm.
I would really encourage anyone who gets told that and is kind of like, no, something's really happening in my body. Like, I really do have a heartbeat that's fast, insomnia.
Yeah.
Very little things will set me off, right? Or it appears out of nowhere.
Mm.
That those physical symptoms are real, and you do need to address those too, and to really seek help and guidance of somebody who can say yes, and right, we need to address both here.
Mm, I love that. And yeah, so in my book, Redesign Your Mind, I'm not sure. Hopefully, all the listeners have read it or listened to it, but I talk about the same thing. Like the first few times I went to the doctors, um, I remember one doctor said, look, you're a little bit stressed, like relax, Steph. And he probably went one step further than most doctors do. But then he said, here, take this script. And it's an antidepressant, but, it will help with your anxiety. And I know that medication works for a lot of people, so not to knock it in any way, but that wasn't my chosen path, and that just made me ignore everything. I said, "Well, I don't want to take medication, so I'm just going to ignore it." There was no referral to a good psychologist. There was no, here's a list of things you can do, and I want you to start meditating. I want you to start um, exercising more. I want you to address these reasons why you're anxious. And that would have done 1,000 times better, just even a little cheat sheet or something, than saying, here's a script, because a lot of people just won't take it. And the people that do, my understanding is it's just a mask. So it's going to mask those problems, and yeah, you're still going to have them there. You've just got something masking it. So, what are some of the ways you think we can, or first of all, your comments on that, and how can we address the actual challenges with anxiety?
Yeah, I love that you brought up medication, because there's a lot of stigma around medication,
Mm,
and there's on both ends, right? The doctor just kind of throws it at you as the fix all.
yeah.
And then this other side of like, well, if I take medication, then that means I'm not strong enough to defeat this on my own. It makes me weaker. You brought up, especially in males, right? That idea that like, I have to take this
Mm,
medication. And medication was a part of my journey for many years,
yeah.
and I went off it. I went off it the wrong way and dealt with that, right? Went back on and off many different times.
Hmm.
And so, where I stand with medication and how I really feel about it is that it's a tool that we can use. And what
Mm,
it did for me on my journey was it was something that I had to turn to because I let the anxiety get so bad that I was
mm,
in such a deep hole. There was no way I was digging myself out of that hole on my own. So, what
mm,
medication did was it allowed me to get a couple notches up on that ladder so that I
mm,
could then start climbing my way out myself, right? It allowed me to come just enough out of the darkness to start doing the work you really need to do to defeat the anxiety.
yeah.
So I
Well,
think medication is a great tool for a lot of people, and I wouldn't want anyone listening to feel as though, medication in any way makes you less of a fighter, makes you
mm,
weaker, or means that you are somehow ignoring the fact that there's other things you need to do. If it's
yeah.
something you need to use, then that's great, and you figured that out, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's not going to fix it, right? For
Yeah.
most people, medication is going to help you show up for the work that you need to do to defeat the anxiety. So,
Yeah. I
yeah,
love
I
that.
mean, I think, like you just said, there's all these different modalities that you can address, and it's really a personal journey. And why I've chosen to go into one on one coaching mainly is because I find that each one of my clients needs something so different.
Mm,
And what works for one isn't going to work for another. What resonates for one isn't going to resonate with another. There
yeah.
are underlining key concepts, right, that I work with everyone on, but it depends on who I'm working with in terms of how we get to that concept or how we address that pillar that you need to be able to overcome the anxiety.
Yeah. Wow. And so, yeah, that's a great answer. One I wasn't expecting because, a lot of people, experts say these are the things to do. But I like how you said, well, everyone's different. So, for everyone listening, um, like Anna said, never give up. Just keep trying and keep searching for things that will work, because what works for one person might be doing harm to the other person. So you got to just keep trying. And for myself, I guess, even relating it back to the medication thing, the thing I just wanted for myself personally, and I think for others as well, like, make sure you try something. you know if you do choose the medication path, like Anna said, it's going to help you show up to work on those things. So make sure you're doing those practices as well, and working on what works for you. So that was my personal opinion, that I didn't like what doctors do, that if they say here's a script and I take it and it works, well, that's, a lot of people aren't um, intuitive enough, or going to research and see, all right, what do I actually need to do, or do I just take this for the rest of my life, and that's it. So find someone to work with, and yeah, just don't give up on that. So all right, that's gold. So we could talk for hours about that topic alone, but let's move on because there's more to talk about. And you talked about anxiety and the gut a few things I saw from you before. Um, Relating that to my story again, and in the book, for me, the first like major anxiety experience. Now, I'm still not sure if I was actually sick or not, but it was something that just overpowered me, and I was sick in the stomach that I could not function properly. I was a shell of the person I, was instantly, and I couldn't eat properly, and it really affected me. And happened for me actually when I was coming to America to, have a holiday with friends and my brother, and meant to be a time of my life. And whether I got sick or it was the pressure, or maybe both, maybe I was, a little bit sick and the anxiety just made it worse. I was just instantly lost all my confidence. And um, there's a lot of talk about anxiety and the gut, and the gut is our, connected to our brain in our head, and it's our second brain. And so I can't wait to hear what you think about that gut connection and anxiety as well.
Yeah, it's a big one. And it was a big part of my journey. And I find it a really common thread with most of my clients. You know, I let my anxiety go so long, and was so disconnected. Like my head and my body
Mhm.
were so disconnected. I
Yeah,
was telling myself all these things here, and I'm strong enough, and I'm going to push through. And my body kept saying, this isn't quite right. We don't love this. Like not feeling so good. And I said, nope, it's all good. Like, I'm strong. I'm going to push through. Right. Then my body got a little louder, and I said, oh no, I think I still got this. I'll take one day off work, and then I'm back in it. And to the
yeah,
point where I was living in Costa Rica. I was teaching first through third grade bilingual Montessori. I had like my dream job, right? If you had asked me when I was 19 or told me I'd be doing this, I'd be like, oh my God, that's it. Life
sounds
is
good to me.
done. I've reached my pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
Like truly dream job, dream life, was just living it up. And I was so sick. I
Mm.
like just a whole year of just being really bedridden, but not allowing myself to be in bed.
To rest,
And it
not
got to
allowing
the
yourself
point,
to rest.
not at all. Yeah. And I got to a point where my principal and some, peers and colleagues called me in, and they said, Anna, you are so sick, you can't come to school anymore.
Mm,
And you need to get on an airplane, and you need to go home and get healthy. So it was
mm,
so bad. Like, it was so bad that everyone around me in my community saw it and really forced me to go home to get better. And I didn't even see it, right? That's how
mm.
disconnected I was.
Yeah,
So, I went, another good year of having to recover my health, and my gut was just a mess. It was an absolute mess.
mm,
And that forced me to, I went to the Western, doctors. They did all the tests, looked at all the things, and they said, we can't find anything wrong. You must have IBS. You
mhm.
check 3 out of 5 boxes. IBS is your diagnosis. No suggestions, no guidance, just we're putting IBS on your forehead and we're sending you on your way.
Mm,
And that just drove, I was livid. And it
mm.
really was the fire I needed under me to say, I got to do this myself. I got to figure this one out on my own.
Yeah,
So through diet, through movement, through reconnecting the mind and the body, I was able to heal my gut and really figure out what I can eat that makes me feel good.
mm,
And then once I realized how connected the anxiety was with my gut, and I started working on both simultaneously, they both rapidly started to get better. And again,
mm.
it comes back to that you can't just deal with the anxiety and then over here be dealing with the gut or the physical symptoms that you're experiencing. You have to come at them together,
Yeah, it's a
because whether or
holistic
not it's the
approach.
stomach, yeah, it's like whether or not it's the stomach causing the anxiety or the anxiety causing the stomach, it doesn't matter. You have to address them both.
Yeah.
And then
Can
there's
I?
that third heart, which is the third brain, which is the heart. And that's the piece that I'm really starting to bring into my work, is that our heart creates neurotransmitters, and our heart actually speaks to our brain more than our brain speaks to our heart. So
Yeah,
that's
wow.
the third brain that we start
So
paying attention to.
so all these things are connected, and it's very holistic. Um, we're going to spend a bit of time here, so we'll come back to the gut and some of those things we can do to heal the gut. Because yes, we're not dietitians, or we might as well go into it now. We're not dietitians. Maybe you are. I'm not sure on the side, but I've got my theories on what foods and things may help you. Because before you speak, just think logically, listeners. Like if you've got a car and you're putting dirt into the tank, that car is not going to run. So you need to put the right fuels and gas or whatever it needs to power efficiently. It's no different to us. Now, what we actually need, I personally think we're still working out as a society. It's still not very clear. Some people say high fat, some people say no carb, some people say, no processed foods, no sugar. There's all these different things. Um, so I still think we're still maybe a good generation or so away from working that out. But in the meantime, we can work out what is good for us. But Anna, what are your thoughts on the things for your clients and yourself, the common things, and maybe everyone's different, but what do you see are the things that can help with not triggering that anxiety and helping our gut?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that car analogies are really powerful. And if you're driving a diesel and you go to fill up with regular gas, you're also probably not going to get very far. So again, it's about finding out what your body likes, feels good eating. And there are definitely some, common underlining things that we can look at. Sugar for me is the number one thing I work with my clients on. And
Mm.
it's not that you can't ever have a cookie again, or that you shouldn't ever have that piece of birthday cake at the party. However, there is a period where you need to be willing to cut out everything that you think may be wreaking havoc.
Mm, mm,
So those things can be, sugar, dairy, different types of grains.
mm,
Gluten is the big one in our society. And I worked with a nutritionist in New Jersey who just blew my mind wide open on the whole gluten thing, and,
mm,
really kind of got down into the nitty gritty about why gluten isn't working in our bodies anymore. There's some really interesting science behind that.
mm.
But what it takes is cutting out all of those things that you think might be doing harm, and then adding them in strategically one by one. And by cleansing your body of all these things, that our bodies are really resilient, right? They're going to build up a tolerance.
Mm.
I ate dairy for my whole life. I'm a Midwestern girl. Okay. We had a glass of milk yay high at dinner, every dinner. I ate dairy my whole life. When I cut dairy out and I added it back in, my body freaked out. It was
Wow.
like, it was very loud. It said, I broke out. My
Yeah.
stomach was in knots. I mean, it was really bad. My anxiety skyrocketed. It was all of the things. I never knew, because my body built up this tolerance to dairy because I always ate it. So I said, okay, if you're going to
Mm,
eat this, we're going to figure out how to process it. Right. So it
mm-hmm.
really takes your willingness to really remove that food completely, cleanse your body of it completely, to get a true read on if it's something your body likes or doesn't like.
Mm.
So that's kind of part of the work I do when it comes to diet is this play, right? You got to play with it. You got to play with food and really be listening to what the food is telling you when you eat it.
Yeah, and look, I'm always experimenting with my diet and seeing what works and what doesn't. For me, I think yeah, the sugar is definitely something I pretty much don't have any processed sugar during the week, and like you said, it gets the weekend, and you might want to, have a bit of fun and let loose a bit. But yeah, the gluten thing is it's a tough one because a lot like even the Harvard healthy diet talks about having whole grains and things like that. So um, yeah, it's just one of those things that it's very hard to balance. And yeah, some very good points there, but definitely anyone listening, go see a nutritionist, and especially seeing a nutritionist or dietitian that understands anxiety and wants to help with that. So I see a nutritionist as well, and we've worked on quite a few things that have helped me. So yeah, that's good. Now I want to
I
dig
just
deep.
one
Oh,
last
sorry.
point I want to
Yeah,
make on it is
yeah.
that, you know, when you do, like when you have that let loose on the weekends,
Mm,
what makes the biggest difference, or what has for me, is intentional, right?
mm,
I'm choosing to eat this cookie. I'm choosing it, right? I'm not doing it because it's a craving or because I feel like I need it. I'm
yeah,
choosing it. I want to give myself this piece of bread, this cookie, whatever it is. And I'm going to observe what happens in my body. And that's going to let me know, like, all right, the effects of eating that cookie were worth the cookie. It was definitely worth
yeah,
it. I'm glad I ate the cookie. Or, you know, actually the effects after I ate that cookie are kind of not so great. And I probably won't choose to do that again. But
yeah.
taking this different mindset at it of curiosity versus restriction, and like allowing or not allowing, I think is a really big shift a lot of people can make right
Mm.
away.
And for me, the way I do it, for me, it's I'm a little bit different. It's like my treat. So it's something, we need things to look forward to. It's only something small, but if I'm having, a chocolate milkshake on the weekend, that's something that, I look forward to as a treat. So it's ways that we can make it that it's not impulse eating, like you said, just doing it for the sake of it. Um, but yeah, that's great. So let's move on. I want to go back to Costa Rica, as you called it. I think we say Costa Rica here, so a bit different. But back in Costa Rica, you had your dream job and you're living in Costa Rica, but you were really anxious and then eventually bedridden. I want you to, if you're comfortable, to dig deep and share with us why you were feeling that way. Because in my own life, there were times when I had or appeared to have everything, and people said, "Steph, you've got it all. It's going great," but that wasn't what was happening on the inside. So why were you so anxious, and what did you have to change in your mindset or your goals?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. It's, I think there's a lot more shame that comes in when we are perceived to be living our dream lives and yet on the inside are really suffering.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Costa Rica for me was the kind of tip of a mountain I had been climbing for a very long time. So, um, I was this go-go person. I had to give my all to everything I did. Like when I had my first panic attack, I was biking to rugby practice. It was a 14-mile bike ride. I would practice rugby for 2 hours and bike 14 miles home, like just to give you a little picture of, like, the amounts I would push myself.
Mm,
And Costa Rica was no different. I had my dream job, but I had to be the best at it, right? I had to show up for my students in this way. I had to show up every day. And then outside of the work, I needed to show up for myself by exercising in this way and eating in that way and being social in this way.
mm,
I built this kind of these cages, this restraint around myself about the way I needed to be showing up in life in all areas. And it had to be 100%. And I always had to be my cheery, outgoing, happy self, because that's
mm,
right how everyone saw me. So no matter how much I was struggling, I had to show up, especially when you're a teacher. I work with a lot of teachers. There's,
mm,
that need to put on the face for the kids.
mm-hmm,
Um, and this was kind of the buildup, right? My whole life, I played my life out this way. I always needed to be hitting that next notch and doing all of the things all of the time. And I broke.
mm,
I simply broke.
mm-hmm,
Like I said, my body said, we can't sustain this anymore. And it got pushed to the point where I was forced to listen. And
Mm,
why I do this work is because I don't want anyone to feel like they have to break before it's time to start fixing what's wrong.
mm,
Breaking and I lost everything. I lost my dream. I lost my job. I lost my passion for teaching for a long time. And
mm,
it was really dark.
mm.
It doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to break before you start to fix what is not working in your life.
Oh wow. Well, I wish I met you maybe 5 or 6 or 10 years ago, because I can totally relate. And I'm sure there's listeners out there that are saying, "Oh, I wish I could comment or join and say my part of my story right now," because wow, like, and it goes in with, I'm sure you're a perfectionist and an overachiever, and these are the things that anxious people, or sorry, goes hand in hand with anxiety, trying to keep that perfect record. And for me, it's still one of the big reasons why I still have to practice at anxiety, because we do want to keep things running smoothly, and want people to perceive us that we're doing so well, and that we got it under control. And for me, one thing I actively try and do now is and it's something one of the tools in the book, that it's called "Give Up, You Perfectionist Wanker." And I actually try and do things a little bit half-assed sometimes, like, what, near enough is good enough. And it kills me to do it. I'm there like, oh God, I just want to make this perfect. But you have to practice it. And yeah, I can really relate to that. And thank you so much for sharing that. And um, yeah, I guess that perfectionism and overachiever, that's something we can all relate to. I'm guessing, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that shows up, right? The OCD, the perfectionism, the people pleasing,
Yeah,
yeah, the wanting to look like you have it all together when inside, like it's all crashing down, just putting more pressure on yourself to hold up an image that doesn't feel true to yourself.
yeah. No, and thank you for sharing that. So, um, one of the last things I want to talk about, yoga has been a big thing for me, and overcoming anxiety. So I probably only practice once a week. Would love to do it more, but just all the other things going on. And you talked about, I'm not very good at pronouncing this, but I think I actually practice this sometimes, because in class, they're always doing different flows and things. But um, Kundalini Yoga, I think. And
Yeah,
um,
you got it.
okay, good. So I'm good at listening to it in class, but I can't repeat anything they say. But um, tell us about that, and you know, give the listeners, because I've heard all about it as well. But what's the scientific? You mentioned scientific before. Give us some scientific evidence of the benefits and how often you need to do it, and what your thoughts are, because I want to learn as well.
Yeah. I did yoga for so many years and I was always searching for that, and I have to believe there's listeners out here who can relate to that. People are like, yoga's the key, right? You're gonna like yoga's the answer. Like go to yoga, it's gonna solve your anxiety. And I was like, ooh, that sounds great. I'll go, roll out my mat. And
Yeah.
I just never, it helped. It was good. I liked it. I kept doing it, but it never
Mm,
like clicked for me. I was never like, I'm like, this isn't like the end all here. And then I found Kundalini yoga and it was like
mm,
mind blown. I was like, oh, this is yoga. Now I get it. And Kundalini yoga for me was the capper to all the other work I had done. It kind of all, Kundalini yoga brought it all together for me and is very much at the core of how I stay resilient and strong, especially now. I don't know what I would do without my practice right
wow.
now in the times we're living in. So why I love Kundalini yoga so much is because it marries my type A, my show me the data, I want to know the research
Yeah.
with spirituality, with connection, with actually understanding that inner vibration, that inner energy that lives within us all, right? It's like the woo woo and the science come together in one, hour. You can hit it all. So for Kundalini yoga, it's asking you to do some pretty funky stuff
Okay.
because it's working on your nervous system, your glandular system, your lymph nodes. The nervous system is the biggest one when it comes to anxiety. We live our lives with our sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight, our go, go, go,
Mm.
always on a 10, if not more, right? We wake up, the minute we wake up, we're like hitting the racetrack. And our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest nervous system, never gets a chance to like shine. So
Mm.
yoga, any form of yoga really, and for me, Kundalini is like my jam, is balancing your nervous system. It's giving your parasympathetic nervous system a chance to get stronger. And it's building your ability to know when to be go, 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 and when it's okay to relax and to feel safe relaxing. A lot of us, the hardest position is Shavasana because we don't feel very comfortable letting go and just relaxing, right?
Yeah.
There's all the memes that say like, oh, I go to yoga for the Shavasana. And it's like, actually, most people get into Shavasana and feel very uncomfortable because I'm asking them to just simply be still for a good,
Yeah.
7 minutes. And that's really uncomfortable. They're like ready to jump into the next task of the day.
Yeah.
So, I think you asked how much, as much as you can.
Mm.
There's no like, unless you practice this much, is it going to give you benefit? These tools are cumulative.
Mhm.
They add up. If you do it one day and then you don't do it for 2 weeks, that one day you did it is still helping you.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
I practice every day, and because it's a core of how I keep my health in order. And sometimes that's 3 minutes. That's 3 minutes of meditation. That's 3 minutes of a breath, whatever it is. And so I really would encourage anyone listening to not let this idea, because this is what stopped me for a long time. I got to do it every day, or I got to do it I have to look this way or be this good at it to do it at all. And if I
Mm.
can't look like that, or if I can't do it every day, then I'm not even going to try. And
Yeah.
you got to throw that out the window, and you
Yeah.
got to be willing to get a little uncomfortable, because transformation happens on the other side of discomfort.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many, like you said, that I can't add anything to it. I'm going to give Kundalini yoga a go because, yeah, it's definitely a different flavor which we can all try. So I've just been thinking while you've been talking as well. And, look, we're obviously very similar with the overachiever and go, go, go attitude. I mean, like myself right now, I'm doing this podcast, about to start work. Then I've got, the next event and then the next event, and the weekend's all planned out. What are some of the things people can do? And I can take this on board as well, to stop that burnout. You might not actually think or be anxious at the moment, I guess, but in a sense. But what are some of the things we can do to, uh, I guess, allow our bodies and our minds to relax a bit and to ease up? Like you said, you learnt on your transformation when you learnt this life in Costa Rica is no good. I can't live this way, to now. Besides Kundalini yoga, we've got that as one, and we've got one as seeing a coach and, getting help there, and we've got also your gut health as well. So we've already got some good things, but what some things people could do maybe with their diary or their day to day, or, other things they can try.
Yeah, I guess there's so many. I could just go for hours. I guess the main thing that comes to mind in this moment is create some non-negotiables for yourself,
Yeah,
and
well,
really get serious about what are your priorities, what is important to you. yoga is not important to everyone, right? Meditation is not important to everyone. I would argue that it would help anyone who is open to trying it, and they can look a lot of different ways. But whatever it is for you, maybe it's, starting your day a certain way or ending your way a certain day, or making sure that you get, X number of hours with, your loved one or your partner, or that you take your dog for a walk, every day, or you gotta decide what am I not willing to negotiate here, no matter what hasn't gotten done on my to-do list for the day. What
Mhm.
are my non-negotiables? And start small, right? Don't try to climb the mountain in one day. Start small. Pick one or two things that you really feel are really important to you and your health, and get serious about sticking to it.
Yeah, I love that, Anna. And I think, look, like you said, we could talk for another 10 hours about these topics. So we might have to get you on again one day. But thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of people have learned a lot today because I have too as well. And yeah, really, look, I'll put Anna's details in the socials. And thanks so much for coming on the show, Anna.
Thank you. It was so fun to be here. Yeah, it was just a total honor. So I thank you for having me.
Thanks heaps. Thanks for watching my chat with Anna, the anxiety coach. There was definitely so much we all could learn from that one, particularly me as well, because anxiety still is something I'm working on. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed the conversation. Let me know if you want to have Anna back on the show, and we'll get her on again soon. But otherwise, thanks for listening, guys.